Hello. Thank God for this movie. It might be a bit extreme. I'm very thankful for this movie because it reminds me, and I needed a reminder, why I do this. As you know, as I've commented on quite a few times, the movie scene this year has been disappointing, to say the very least. Not to mention, just stuff that goes on outside of, my, doing these reviews, just work and, dealing with, the people there and everything. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Not bad, not terrible, but just, stressful, long. We're getting towards the end of the year and things are just, it's stuff. Anyway, so couple that with the fact that just nothing seemed to come out this week, or nothing that I really felt like I wanted to waste, however many hours of my life viewing for stuff I kind of knew I was gonna hate, and I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it to the point of even wondering if I wanted to do this, and I knew this movie was out, and I knew about it. I knew a bit about it, and with the trailer, it's just made it look very dreary, and and very kind of, the Bleecker Street films, because it's a British company. The Brit films have kind of a, they have their modes and their tropes just like we do, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to see another Eye in the Sky, or now I can't even remember the name of that other one I saw, the 6 Days and Wherever, the other Rosamund Pike movie I saw this year, or one of 3 Rosamund Pike movies I've seen this year, where their films are, kind of interesting, but they're also kind of dull, and they move very slowly because the Brits like that. So I was just, I didn't know if I wanted to go see another kind of dreary, slow-moving, yet interesting film. But, things happen, and I was like, all right, let's go check it out. And this is why I do this. This is why I started doing these. It gets me to see things I wouldn't otherwise see, and you find a real gem. This is a really good movie. Deceptively good. Because the setup, and again, the little advertising there has been, and again, it's one of those films I've had to look up to see the advertising, has not really sold the film as well as I think it could, because the movie is just incredibly well layered and interesting, so if you haven't heard of it, which, judging by the fact this film is playing only 2 shows a day at at Cordova, of course every other screen is taken up with the Avengers, I'm guessing you haven't. So this guy, played by John Hamm, he used to be a diplomat in Beirut, and due to circumstances, his wife is killed in a terrorist attack, and he leaves Beirut. And then 10 years later, a buddy of his who worked for the CIA ends up being kidnapped by this terrorist cell, and the terrorist cell wants John Hamm's character to come and negotiate for his release. And long story short, what the main terrorist wants is he wants his brother, who is, like the worst terrorist ever, released, and he'll exchange, the captured CIA agent for, his brother. And so now this guy, John Hamm's character, who's been living, he's become a drunk and, fallen from grace. Now he has to kind of negotiate, not just between, the terrorists and all that, but has to negotiate all these kind of people who all want different things, all these different motivations, and this, that, and the other. Again, on the surface, and from the trailers, the film did not look that interesting. It looked very basic. But I found myself very early and very quickly, I'm not sure what happened, but I was hooked really quickly in this film. And I don't know if it was the performances, or the interesting elements of the writing. To take a spy movie, and I don't know how else to classify this other than as a spy movie, to take the spy movie form and place it completely within this realm of negotiation and, take and leave and, leave stuff on the table and all these intricate pieces that need to get moved around and all that, is an idea that could either bomb or really flourish, depending on who was writing, directing, and acting. Because in a way, that could just be dull, which is kind of what they made it seem like the film was going to be. But no, watching John Hamm's character, not just, try to negotiate for his friend's release, but to, how the steps they have to go through, what do you want, what's the price, and all this, is really, really fascinating. And again, since most of us, myself included, we come to the spy genre through mostly like Bond films. This thing's been slipping lately. This isn't a shoot 'em up. This isn't it turns out John Hamm is a former Navy SEAL and he can take out all the bad guys on his own. It's none of that. There's none of that type of thing in here. It's all negotiation and move and counter move, and there's all these strings and all these connective tissue, and it's really, really fascinating. It really is. And I was hooked really early on, and I was involved the whole time. I do feel it, I don't know where, but it hit a bit of a dead spot a little bit in the middle. Just a little bit. Nothing that kind of sucked me out of it, but, it just kind of like, okay, this feels like it's getting a little long. But it recovered pretty quickly, and we got back on track. Mainly because, naturally, in any movie like this, he discovers that there's, someone within the American side of it who isn't telling him the whole truth, and they want something, they're keeping secret, and blah, blah, blah. And it was more just, I couldn't keep track of who was betraying who. They hadn't really named the characters, or, we're talking about playwriting in my intro to theater class, and I'm telling them that, in plays, characters say each other's names a lot because they're trying to identify the character for the audience. Well, they didn't do that very well with some of these characters, or if they named them, they used their first names or not their last, so I could not identify who was who, when they're trying to figure out, all this traitor crap, and, so that was a little off. That's where the writing or the directing could have been a little bit better. But everything else about this film is really engaging. What's really good is that, so you have this bigger story on the outside of, trying to get an agent back. But what ties it all together and what makes it all, function as a really engaging story is that there's all these personal elements that go on in it. So not only is the kidnapped CIA agent, an old friend of John Hamm's character, but the terrorist who has kidnapped him is this kid. See, at the beginning of the film, I don't feel this is a spoiler, because I think you can guess what's going on if you go see the film. So at the beginning of the film, we get kind of a flashback, to John Hamm before his wife was murdered. And while he and, his wife were living in Beirut, they had taken in this refugee, this boy who was about 13 years old. And it turns out that the 13-year-old boy, his brother, is like the worst of the worst terrorists. So it's in this raid that the terrorist cell does on John Hamm's house to get the boy before he can talk to the government, that John Hamm's wife is murdered. So naturally, and you see the movie and you kind of guess this going in, you find out very quickly that the terrorist who's kidnapped the CIA agent is the 13-year-old boy grown up. So now there is a personal connection on two fronts for John Hamm's character. So that was really cool, and I wish they would have explored that dynamic a little bit more with John Hamm's character and now the grown-up boy who became a terrorist. You know, I think they kind of dropped that a little bit, but it really, you could just see in his performance that it was really weighing on him and weighing on everything he was going through. So John Hamm, I'm saying his name a lot because I can't. Mason was the character's name. He's one of these actors that I've heard the name, but I could not name a movie he'd been in. You know, or if he'd been in it, I most likely thought he was Ty Burrell. He always looks and sounds like Ty Burrell from Modern Family, like an older version of him. But I got to take my hat off to the gentleman. He pulls off a really, really good performance in this movie. He's dead on, like just playing every emotion and playing every element. And this is a guy that by the end of this film, you're like, yeah, this is the guy you want negotiating something like this. Because he's got to play, a guy who's lost everything. He's got to play a guy with conflicting feelings about his friend, a guy who wants to get his friend back, a guy who now finds out that this kid he tried to help is this terrorist, this guy who's trying to deal with all this other crap, deal with his own demons. There is a lot to play in this movie. There's a lot he has to go through and a lot of boxes he has to check. And and on top of that, he's got to play a master negotiator, And again, a lot of boxes to check. And he does it really, really well, like flawlessly. It's seamless. It's a really great, subtle, underplayed performance. It's not a performance that is going to get you an Oscar because it's not one of these big, characters. It's so very subtle and so very underplayed, and I think that's what this movie needed, and so it does it really, really well. This is now the third film this year that I've seen with Rosamund Pike, and I've said this in my Hostels review. I said it in my review of however many days and wherever. Shows you how memorable that movie was. Can't even remember the title. I've said it multiple times that Rosamund Pike is, I think, she's one of my favorite working actors. She is just so good in everything she's in. And it's kind of a pity that I don't see her in more things that I like. And I'm really glad she's in this movie, and I'm really glad she plays a CIA agent who's kind of tasked with not so much handling John Hamm's character, but assisting him. I guess she is his handler, I guess would be the term to use. And I like that the movie doesn't fall into that trap of, turning her into a cliche. It'd be so easy to turn her into, the girl that, or the woman that, the evil men of the CIA or whatever don't respect her and don't do this and don't do that, And they have little things like that in there, so it's not a complete, but it's not a soapbox. She's treated, the character and, her and the situation is treated fairly even-handedly, and I like that. So much to a point that except for like one or two little plot details that come up, this part could have been played by a man. And I think that's good. Because what that says is that this isn't a part that, this is the girl part. This is the part that a girl is playing. And I think, I keep calling her a girl, and I'm sorry for that. I mean a woman, I apologize. But I think that is good. That's good casting, that's good writing. And yeah, there's a couple things in there, she needed to be a woman for. But for the most part, this part could have been played by anybody. And I think that's progressive in my opinion. I only wish her character kind of had a little bit more to do. I was kind of hoping that she'd be a little bit more involved in the film. And she is, but, I had to deal with her a lot in Hostels and, the name of the movie I can't remember. And those weren't particularly great movies. And I, saw her in this one. It's like, okay, we're going to see her a lot more. And I was kind of disappointed she wasn't in it as, more, or as much as she was in those other ones. But yeah, it's and there's a twist, quote unquote, at the very end. A very, I'm not gonna, I can't really spoil it. It's kind of impossible to spoil. But there's a twist that's genuinely kind of twisty, where you're like, oh crap, I didn't expect that, so that was good. The only problem is that, so there's a twist, somebody turns out to be not who you thought they were. But again, going back to like the one problem with the movie, it's like, I don't know who you're working for. I have no idea who you just did what you did for. I'd like some clarity on that. But this is a good, I don't even know how to classify it. It's not a spy movie. It's not a thriller. It's an interesting think piece, and I really enjoyed it. I really, again, hooked very quickly and sucked in, and I was held there. So, I don't really know quite what else to say about this one. Again, I always find it funny that the movies I hate, I can just go on and on and on and rant about. And the movies I like, I always feel like I run out of things to say because, what else is there to say? So, I urge you, I really urge you that if you really want to see a really well-written, well-acted, well-directed, fascinating film, you need to check this out, and you need to check it out quick because it's not going to be around for long. It's not going to be out for much longer. Like I say, they've got it in the crappy theater at Cordova, playing only at 1:20 and 7:20. That's it. That's the only times it's playing. So you need to get down and check it out. So final grade for this one, it's an A. I hesitate to say A+, but I'm definitely going to say A. It's a solid A. Enjoyable, intriguing, interesting, and just all around one of those films that, again, reminds me why I do these, because sometimes amidst all the crap you see, you get something that is genuinely amazing and genuinely good, and you're glad you stepped out of the box and took the chance. So I'm glad I stepped out of the box and took the chance. I'm glad I did it today. If I'd seen it yesterday, I probably wouldn't feel the same way. I wasn't feeling great yesterday, but I'm glad I saw it when I saw it, and I had a good time. So that's it for me. Before I give you my sign-up, I have to address something. So this is spoiler territory. So if you have not seen Infinity War, you need to not watch this. So I just have to speak on something, just because it's me. So you've been warned. If you haven't seen Infinity War, turn away. So for all of you who have seen it, you know that a number of characters die in it. One reviewer I watch a lot, Movie Bob, already did a really wonderful piece on the spoilers of Infinity War, talking about, feeling moved that a character died in a film like this is all up to the actors and all that, and it's okay to feel this way. I just have to say something, because like with most things, there have been memes, and I've seen, I've seen all this stuff about, it was destroyed. I just need to take a second. They're bringing almost all of those characters back in the next one, right? I mean, you know that, right? We're all cool on this. The reason I must bring this up is because I was leaving the theater. Of course, one of the 25 showings of Infinity War was letting out at the same time, and I heard people genuinely mad that they killed Black Panther. And I really just want to stop and go, listen, folks, you do know that his movie is now the 4th highest grossing movie of all time. Do you really think they're going to kill him and not do any fucking sequels? Do you really think that? I mean, come on, be honest with me. They went through all that shit to get Spider-Man back. You really think they're going to leave him dead? they're gonna bring a lot of these characters back. I'm not gonna say they're gonna bring them all back, and I'm not gonna say everyone's gonna make it out of the next Avengers film alive. I would bet money Captain America dies in it. I would bet money. But let's put this in perspective. It's okay that some of those death scenes made you sad. Yes, the Peter Parker death scene was really well done. But let's put it in perspective. You know they're coming back, right? We're all hip to this. And if not, let me tell you, they're coming back. All right? Just everybody calm down just a little bit. Okay? So I just had to get that off my chest. Not belittling anybody for having an emotional reaction to a movie. It's great that you did. I did as well. But let's keep it in perspective. All right, so just had to say that. Thanks for watching. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.